Assalamualaikum, Prof. Muhtaba and Mr. Punang. Are you guys ready?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam. All right, the participant is already increasing. Maybe we can start our event now. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Salsabila. As a staff at IMEP's Faculty of Economics and Business of Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta, I feel honored on this beautiful day to be your Master of Ceremony on this very special occasion, the guest lecture of Operation Management course. First of all, let's recite our gratefulness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us His grace in the form of guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this special event without any obstacles. Salawat and salam upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us from the path of darkness to the path of light. I also would like to welcome Prof. Muhtaba Giasi, PhD, as our speaker today. Prof. Muhtaba Giasi is an associate professor and dean at School of Management Science and Industrial Engineering at Shahrut University of Technology, Iran. Received his PhD degree in Production Economics and Operation Research at University of Southern Denmark. I also would like to welcome Mr. Punang Amari Puja, SE STMIT, as our moderator, and all of our enthusiastic audience. Welcome. On this special event, we have several agenda as follows. First is opening, second is introduction from Mr. Punang, third, material about sustainable procurement and resources allocation that will be delivered by Prof. Muhtaba Giasi, PhD, fourth is discussion that will be guided by Mr. Punang as our moderator, and the last one is closing. Well, first, let's begin this event by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. For the audience, do you know about procurement? So before we move to the next agenda, let's listen together a brief explanation about procurement from Mr. Punang. Mr. Punang, are you ready?
Yes, Salsabila, thank you.
Okay, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam.
First of all, I'd like to extend our gratitude to Professor Mujtaba Giazi for setting his time to discuss with us on sustainable procurement and resource allocation based on performance. Now, we have witnessed that procurement seems to be something that's very, very important. We thought that once a company contracts its work, it supplies to other companies outside of the country, what we know as outsourcing, it seems that everything just works fine because the world order has been quite established. But now we have seen many disruptions in procurement. For instance, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown how vulnerable companies are when other companies, other countries shut down because of the pandemic. Aside from that, it seems that companies are also vulnerable due to world events like what we have seen about the conflict in Ukraine, for instance. And it's quite interesting that just that one instance would be affecting, for instance, Mercedes. Mercedes almost had to shut down its operations for several months because they did not get supplies of cable wrappers for their car cables. And now companies are more and more convinced that there has to be several alternatives for procurement. And procurement, of course, has to be sustainable because we always need the the availability of our raw materials, of our spare parts, and so on. And we also need to make sure that in terms of energy efficiency, in terms of the effect on the environment, in terms of the use of resources, it's also sustainable. Now, this is a very important topic that we are talking about today. And if I may introduce Professor Mujtaba to our department. So we have four different streams of study here. One of them is operations management and technology management. So this would fit nicely to what we are learning in the campus. And also, it would also fit nicely for those of you who would be studying and doing thesis on, for instance, supply chain management, on green procurement, and so on. So we are quite excited to hear Professor Mujtaba Ghiasi's speech and discussions later on. Now, we have around 50 minutes for presentations, and then around 30 minutes for questions and answers. And on that note, I would like to invite Professor Mujtaba Ghiasi to present his slides and his presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everybody.
Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, I would like to thank you, all the organizer, for inviting me for this speech, and it's my honor, and I'm very happy to join you on this discussion. Hope that we'll have some sort of interesting talks, and you may enjoy the topics and the materials that I've provided. Then let me share my slides here. So, do you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. Before starting, actually, I've just, when I was waiting for the meeting to be started, I was just watching the introduction video that is about your campus and your activities. That was impressive, actually. You have a nice campus over there. I enjoyed. Okay. Thank you, Professor Poonam, for a kind of summary about the procurements and the importance of the procurements. I have a voice background. Okay. That's good. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate for your introduction, Professor Poonam, talking about the importance of the procurements. I still have the voice background. I mean, other audience should turn up the microphone. Okay. Now it's solved. Still. Yeah. Okay, it should be done. Yeah, as Professor Poonam actually talked just recently, we all know about the importance of the procurements, and all the matter is actually the scarcity and the limitation of the resources that makes the procurements very important and vital issues in the world. And not only the limitation of the resources, but also the process of providing the resources is very important. So the important things is that we now that the procurement process is very important and could be actually vital in some stages. So we are going to talk about today is about sustainable procurement and resource allocations, and of course the performance of the suppliers and the providers that we'll talk shortly. My name is Mujtaba Qiyasi. I've got actually I have a background in operational research and operation management, and while I got my PhD in business administration from the University of Southern Denmark, and my research actually interest includes production economics, productivity and performance management measurements, and generally operational research techniques and methods in economic and management science. So what we are talking about today, we have some sort of review of some fundamental concepts about sustainability, what sustainability is, what are the components of sustainability. Then we shortly talk about the procurements and some fundamental concepts of procurements. Then we talk about the resource scarcity and then resource limitation, and then resource allocation. And then we somehow link those above actually concepts as a sustainable procurement or sustainable budgeting and performance-based budgeting and resource allocation. And then I will briefly provide you some theoretical models that could be interesting for some of you who are actually in doing some sort of research, as a professor said, could be interested for some of you as a PhD thesis or for your master actually thesis topics, especially for students who are doing operational management or supply chain management and so on. And then I will provide you a real-world application, actually a vintage real-world application, which is taken from a textbook. I'll talk about that. And then we'll see some sort of relevant references that could be useful for the future researchers. Okay, so what is the sustainability? If we look at actually to the meaning of sustainability, we see that, I mean, in the broadest view, sustainability refers to the ability of maintain or support a process continuously over time. So in business and policy context, sustainability seeks to prevent any depletion of natural or physical resources, so that they will remain available for a long term. And in the literature, we have different components for the sustainability. Those components are actually the social elements, and you see here, and we take care of the environment when we talk about the sustainability. And we, of course, actually look at the economy. And if we think about any intersection of all these three components, we have some new concepts. When we look at the social components and the economic elements, we are looking for equitable resources. On the other side, when we talk about the environment and economics simultaneously, then we are looking for viable actually resources. And if you think about the social and the environment actually aspects, then we look at for acceptable actually resources. And in overall, if we think about all these components simultaneously, then we have a concept like sustainable actually resources or sustainability in general. Okay, and what is the procurement? As Professor Wang actually just mentioned, the procurement is a vital and somehow a complex concept. It could be complex concepts when we look at it internationally. I mean, providing resources from different regions, from different countries to other countries, especially during the pandemic, you just actually see that many different actually obstacle happens during the pandemics regarding to the problems that we have had during the pandemics. So, and what the procurement is in literature generally is actually a process by which an organization buy products, or could be a service it needs from other organization. Organization could be actually national or international organizations. If we want to have a kind of actually process for procurement, we could look at this process, creating a purchase order. We make an order and then set out the queue. Then we may have an analysis on the vendor selection, and then we may receive some sort of invoice. Then we have goods or services that are received, and we may have a negotiation and send the PO and authorizing the invoice and pay the vendor. And of course, we may have a kind of a record keeping for future actually purchases. As I just talked about, we have three kind of elements for the sustainability, which was the environment, economic, and social. I'm going to talk about some sort of general perspective, but especially I will talk about the environment issue in this actually presentation. Again, I mean the theoretical model that I will talk about is some sort of general model that could be used for the sustainability in general. But my focus is actually on the environment in this talk. So the issue is that, okay, we make some sort of purchases and we may buy some sort of good products or bad products. We know that this might be bad products, but however we make our purchases. So what are the bad products? What bad means in here? So think about a simple example. We have electric cars versus gas and gasoline cars in the market, right? So we can actually buy all those different cars. If you don't care about the environment, then of course, I mean, you could buy a car that's use many fuels. But of course, if the environment and the pollution and then the emission is important for you, then of course, then you may think about, I mean, buying electrical cars. And again, I mean, the capacity and the ability of these cars are of course different, but it's actually up to the buyer to select and make the purchase between these different cars. So bad actually products in this issue means the products that are not actually friends, or they are not actually environmental friendly. They make pollution, they make actually emission. Okay. The next concept is resource allocation. And this concept actually matters because of the resource scarcity. I mean, as you may know that one of the vintage definition of the economics is the art of allocating, is the art of using resources in an optimal way. So it's actually again an old definition of the economics, and the whole we could say, I mean, generally the whole economics is the art of using the resources. Because of this, the resource allocation is again interesting and of course a vital issue. And one of the topics in the resource allocation literature is taking care of the performance. I mean, we should think about the performance of the units when we are allocating different resources to those units. And another important issues, as I just said, is the sustainable resource allocation. We should have, I mean, this sort of assignment and allocation of the resources in a way that we don't have, or we won't face any obstacle or issues, at least in the midterms or in the long term. So now I'm gonna link and I'm gonna relate these three concepts together. I mean, resource allocation and procurement and the performance. So we can see the procurement as a kind of resource allocation. Okay, when you make the purchases, then you spend money. You put a portion of your money, for instance, I mean, for buying the car or buying, I mean, foods. I mean, I'm talking about I'm talking about the family, right? But in a bigger scale, thinking about the country, I mean, different resources of the country could be used, I mean, in different sections. So the procurement then can be considered as a kind of resource allocation to the process. So the sustainability was important, I mean, in the resource allocation. Again, then it is more important in making procurements. So again, we have limited resources in the world. I mean, almost all the resources are limited. So we have no unlimited resources. Then allocating the resources is important. We see this part as input of the modeling. Then we have sustainability, that we should take about that during the process of allocating resources. And of course, again, we have to think about the economics and social and environmental issues. In the model that we will see actually quickly, I focus more on economic issues and their environment components. And of course, in a more advanced model, we may think about the social impacts as well. So in general, I mean, in any kind of production or in any kind of receiving services, we have some sort of production in the middle, which was taken by some inputs. Inputs, I mean, is a general term. It could be money, it could be the equipment, it could be capacity, and all these issues. We have some sort of management during the production or during giving the services. And on the other side, we have outputs that could be products, that could be services, and etc. And of course, we may have some sort of factors that the decision maker may not have any kind of control on those factors. So the whole story is estimation the production function here. So I'm gonna talk a little bit some sort of theoretical model in the next slides. Again, the resources are limited, and we should use them in an optimal way. Talking about optimal way of using the resources yield us to a very, very important keyword, which is the efficiency. So what efficiency is, or what the productivity is, is the ratio. It is defined in the literature that it's a ratio of the outputs that we receive by the inputs that we consume. Being more precise, actually, efficiency and productivity are not equal, because we have another term called effectiveness that we should take about that. But I mean, in this presentation, let me just use these two words actually by each other. I mean, efficiency and productivity. So let's make them equal. Again, the efficiency or productivity is actually defined by the ratio of the outputs that we have, or products that we receive by the resources that we use. And we could have different numbers or different kind of outputs, and we may use actually and consumes different types of the outputs. Then we should take care about all of them. So let's have some sort of definition, and the X are the inputs that we use by the DMU. The DMU means, again, a kind of general word, any kind of decision-making unit. On the other side, we have outputs that could be produced by these decision-making units. And here we have the efficiency, which is the weighted sum of the outputs over the weighted sum of the inputs that we use. So, in general, talking from the production economic perspective, we are gonna have estimation of the technology set, which is the T technology sets that you can see here. So we just see that this ratio is the definition of the efficiency or productivity, and of course we would like to maximize the efficiency, and we have some sort of constraints here, which are the normalization constraints, and then we have this linear fractional programming that might be actually familiar with some of you, based on this production, actually production space. And if we make some sort of play with variables and those fractions, then we'll have more actually simple problem here, which is a linear programming problem. And if we make kind of interpretation in this problem, we are looking for maximizing the outputs. We are looking for maximizing the products that we would like. On the other side, we kind of fix actually the level of inputs. So what we do here in this modeling, we would like to find that how much output can be produced with the current resources. So you have kind of limited resources in hand. On the other side, you would like to find that what is the maximum level of the outputs that we can produce. So let's not talking about I mean this notation anymore. Okay, and the next model is actually the dual model of the previous linear programming that some of you might be familiar with that. I'm not going to go to the details of these issues, just providing a small actually example for this. Let's assume that you have, for instance, 7 countries or 7 factories actually, and you have different actually numbers for level of the inputs and outputs here. So the factory number 1 uses 2 inputs, on the other side produce 2 outputs, and we have the same numbers actually for the rest of factories. The output-oriented model that we just talked could be simply like this model, And you can simply use different solving actually software to find the optimal solution for this model. Or you may use the dual model, and you all know that it is actually kind of equivalent solving. It doesn't matter, solve dual model or the primal model. Then you will get actually the optimal solution here. And if you make this calculation for all the units, you get these numbers. And what these numbers means is that, okay, in the second column, we have the efficiency index for all these factories. It means that it says that the factory number one, the efficiency is almost 75 actually percent. It means that 25% of the resources are wasted by this company. If you look at to the second company, the efficiency score is equal to 1. Means that it is working efficiently, so there is no waste of input here. If you look at to the third company, the efficiency index is 90%, meaning that 10% of the resources again are wasted here. So these are some interesting numbers here. The next actually analysis could be, we call it benchmarking. So for those companies that are not working efficiently, we make some sort of benchmark that they can look at them and improve the performance. So I think it's kind of enough for these numbers and then modeling. Let's go some and see some pictures. I mean, for this simple example, we had one input and one output, vertical and horizontal, actually the vector here. Then we have the efficient frontier, and we see that only the second company or firm is located on the frontier, means that it's working efficiently. Other companies are inside the production sets, and they have actually some distances from the efficiency frontier. For the first company, which is P1, we see that, okay, it's not efficient, but it is somehow close to the efficient frontier. But the story about the fifth country is worsened. I mean, it's not very close to the efficiency frontier, so it's not working efficiently. Okay. And other different concepts could be dealt here. I won't go to the details, just make some sort of hint for you by asking two important questions. Is it possible to get less products or less services for more portion of the input? Or on the other side, is it possible to find more outputs, more products by using less portion of the inputs? The question, the answer for this question is yes. For both these questions are yes. And how to make them? I will refer you to the literature by calling DEA models, data and development analysis models, considering variable returns to scale concepts, which is a fundamental concept in economic theory. So, okay. Now let's go to the environment issues. Again, think about buying the car and having good outputs and bad outputs. Okay, in the previous models, we just think about inputs and outputs. Both inputs and outputs are desirable for us, meaning that okay, we fundamentally would like to use less output. On the other side, we fundamentally like to produce more output. But this statement is not valid for bad output. Of course, it is the output, but we would like to have less output, less bad output, okay? You may think about, I mean, electricity generation. We use, for instance, gas or gasoline for producing electricity, right? On the other side, okay, we have electricity, which is a good output. We would like to have more electricity power. But as a side product, we make pollution. We make CO2 or we make SO2, right? Which are pollution and are not good output. So what we do with this bad output, we make some sort of modeling here. In a simple way, we think about this bad output as an input. The model that you see here. Again, I just led you to go through the literature for having more information, and just go to the next slide, which is about the resource allocation. So what we deal here is that when we are allocating the resources, we should think about the performance of the units. We should think about the efficiency of the units. This multi-objective linear programming does this aim for us. So it looks for the maximum level of production with the limited resources, while taking care of the environmental efficiency actually index. So I would say that this model is an environmental resource allocation. But as I said, I mean, the previous model is this kind of simplest model taking care of the bad outputs. But there are some sort of more advanced production technology thinking about the bad outputs that I just mentioned, one of them, which is about production process of the good and bad outputs simultaneously. Okay, let's go for a vintage real world problem, which was done by some authors based on the data set of all OECD countries in 1997. We see the countries here, and we see we have the level of the labor and capital. On the other side, we have the industrial production plus the level of pollution by making CO2. So in this example, or in this actually application, they look at to the environment aspects of the production. Okay, and if we see actually, if we just look at to the level of the industrial production, then we get the technical efficiency of these countries, and we see, okay, Canada, USA, and Japan in the first step, in the first stage actually, and then we get the Australia, New Zealand, Austria, Denmark, and so on. Okay. But if we think about the environment, if we take care about the pollution that this country actually makes, then we have different story, which is reported in the third column. Then we see that Denmark in the first place, right? So meaning that the Denmark is working efficiently in terms of actually environment issues. And then we have Japan, for instance. After that, we may think about UK or Sweden and so on. This is actually a vintage real world application made by, I think, Professor Lucas, an economist, an Austrian economist, that I will share his with you in the next slides. Okay, you see a kind of diagram here, and we have ecological or environmental efficiency in this vector, and we have the level of actually efficiency in the horizontal vector here. And we see Denmark and Japan standing on that kind of top place. And then we have Austria, Sweden, Norway, and the US somehow in the middle. And surprisingly, I mean, Canada is not doing well. I mean, yeah, more investigation is needed here. Okay, what I did is just provide some sort of fundamental concepts of sustainability, especially environment issues, and then I provided some modeling, some linear programming modeling for estimating, I mean, all these effects while using and allocating the resources and making the purchases and procurements. Thank you for your time and and your patience on listening this presentation. Here are some references and papers that could be interested for some of you in the future. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Montaba. Thank you for your insight and for your time and for your knowledge. Hopefully, it will be helpful for us, especially in this era, as we know, after we go through a pandemic where uncertainty is everywhere and sustainability is an important thing for us to pay attention to. Moving on to the next agenda is discussion that will be guided by Mr. Punang as our moderator. Mr. Punang, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Salsabila. So I think it has lots of implications, what was just explained by Professor Mujtaba. And I'm sure that you all have lots of questions. Now, frankly speaking, the thesis that we have not done much thesis on the mathematical models of supply chain. And thus, this would be very interesting. And students could use this as a reference and an inspiration for making the variety of our thesis more diverse. And hopefully, there will be more students doing these kinds of modeling. Now, I would like to invite questions from our students and other maybe observers.
For all of my friends, if you have any question, you can ask ahead or you can write it down in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, there's one chat. I'm not sure what it's. Oh, okay. Okay. While waiting for the other students to write down their questions or maybe prepare questions, I would like to ask Professor Mujtaba, maybe not really something that has been explained in this presentation, but a lot of our students are working on theses connected to halal supply chain, halal procurement. And here we have another term, a sustainable procurement, we have green procurement and so on. So can you please explore on the differences and the similarities between each of those terms and how do they correlate with each other? Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, I'm not expert on some of these issues, but they could be actually related somehow. I mean, when we look at to the halal products, I mean, there is a consensus that okay, the halal products are actually they are actually good outputs. Saying that, I mean, the byproducts of these actually purchases are less compared to the normal products. I mean, just thinking about, I mean, halal meats, okay, there are some experimental actually investigations showing that I mean the halal meats have some sort of less actually byproducts compared to the normal meats, and we have the same story and the same investigation done by experts, by I mean scientific experts, showing that I mean these type of products are actually more interesting for buyers. So we may look at to the I mean to this issue in terms of the good and bad outputs. So I mean you raise a kind of interesting actually concept. I haven't thought about this before, but yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Yeah, I mean why not? I mean it can be a kind of I mean trade-off between the good outputs and the bad outputs when we talk about the halal products and normal products.
Okay, thank you. So I'm also wondering whether when we say halal, it might, or does it include that something is sustainable? Because halal might not just be about the condition of the product itself, but also about the process of producing the product. And if we can expand it to that stage, then if it's halal, hopefully it's also sustainable and it's also green. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, because the halal products are actually taking care of the process as well, right? So, I mean, and of course, I mean, you are not allowed to use, I mean, all type of products. You should think about the process on the other side. You should think about actually the level of using the products. So I mean, the whole story could be actually some sort of could we think about some sort of actually sustainable process. And of course, we should have actually some sort of discussion about the social impact of the sustainability here and on using the halal products, right? Which I'm not expert on that, but I mean, there could be some sort of interesting topic on that. I mean, of course, we think about the environment, and then on the other side, we should think about the society and the social impact of using resources, especially the halal products. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Now I would like also for the other members of the forum to state their questions, or maybe you have some comments that you would like to add on the presentation.
Yeah. Let's wait. We may receive some sort of question from the audience. Yeah, all type of questions are welcome. While we receive the questions, as you also mentioned, I mean, I had a kind of combination of theoretical model besides some application model that could merge and used for the future researchers. I mean, when we look at a problem, a real world problem, then we have to have some sort of actually a nice estimation and nice preparation for those problems to figure out and find out what's exactly going on the process. So, meaning that, I mean, we cannot get rid of the theory. So the theory is important here. If we don't have a good and a nice theory, then we cannot go to the next step, which is the application. So the combination of theory and application is very important. That's why I made a kind of mixture of this part of the research, and I hope that it could be interesting for some of the audience in the future researchers. You can see, I mean, in these slides, different application of, I mean, those modeling in sustainability, in environmental issues, in green process issues that yeah, some of you guys may look at them. I think we have.
Yes, there's one question in the chat room.
Yeah.
This is from Elvira Yolanda Aprilia, and she wants to know, she states that the government plays a major role in preserving the earth, including policies and implementation of the procurement of goods and services that are environmentally friendly or sustainable procurement. So, and she would like to know why that is the case.
Okay, actually, I'm not in the right place to say why is that the case, but I totally agree with this statement. We are actually about running a kind of research project with Ministry of the Science and Technology here in Iran, taking care about the level of the emission that are producing by factories in the national level. Yep, again, I agree with the concept, but I mean, my short answer could be actually I would say that economical benefits plays important issue here, right? So you cannot state that everybody is taking the environment, is taking care of the environment. So it is the matter of actually looking to the story from different perspective. If we think sustainability, if we think in a sustainable way, then we should take care about I mean the environment. We should take care about the resources, and of course we should take care of the society. Again, if we would like to have a kind of long-term plan, if the future is important for us, then we have to actually deal with these issues.
So
yeah, I actually don't have the Instagram. I'm a bit busy and have less time for spending there. And I have an actually old Facebook account, but I haven't checked it for a long time. Yeah, sorry for that. I'm not very active actually on these platforms.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
And there's a question from Muhammad Arif Rahman about Indonesian products imported by Iran, because he's interested in running an export business, such as processed coconut sugar, which is also widely produced here, but also he's running a furniture business also. So it seems that a lot of our students want to be entrepreneurs, and in fact, some of our students are also running their family businesses, and I think their spirit of entrepreneurship also shows in questions like this.
Yeah. Actually, it's I would say that it's a kind of good side effect of the pandemic. Actually, the time that most of people spend time, on their home, on lockdown, and thinking about the issue, thinking about, making businesses, as you said, family businesses. It's nice. It's very good. There are actually high potential of making some sort of cooperation between, Indonesia and Iran. There are actually huge number of people, a big number of population in both countries, and there are many actually links and close relationship. In terms of the thinking, in terms of the religion and all these issues. I would say that there are lots of potential in this. I am actually advising some of the trading company in Iran. I can connect. I mean, those students with those companies that are working on these issues. Yeah, I mean, why not? It's very nice.
Okay.
I don't have those platforms. I
Yes,
mean,
can you hear?
yeah.
Okay, as you were saying.
No, I mean, somebody was asking actually a question.
Okay, it
yeah,
was
yeah.
the host. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was just saying that. I mean, I don't have those platforms, but I mean, you're always welcome to message me on LinkedIn that I'm more active. So I have an account on LinkedIn. If you just search my name, Mujtaba Qiyasi, on LinkedIn, then you can find me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for the offer. Right. I have a question regarding, if I may, while waiting for other questions from the students. I have a question regarding the model that you explained on the differences in efficiency between companies. Yep. Right. Now, what we actually want for the economy to be more efficient is actually for companies to be aware of their inefficiencies. But sometimes companies do not see that the effort in increasing efficiency is worthwhile, as long as they do not feel that their profits are diminishing, or maybe especially in areas where the competition is not very high. So do you have a model or maybe ideas of the determinants of variables that would bridge between efficiency and profit, and how much the decrease in profit would increase the willingness of companies to make their processes more efficient?
Interesting question. Actually, yes. There is actually a kind of modeling called profit efficiency modeling. There is actually in the literature a concept, as you actually just raised this concept. Yes, it's called profit efficiency, actually index, which is known in the literature. And yeah, I mean, in that index, I mean, you can think about the revenue on one side, and you can think about the cost on the other side, and in the final actually modeling, you get the profit efficiency. How efficient is this firm in terms of reaching the specific level of the profit? Yes, there are actually some modeling. I can send actually some of this literature to Prof. Radian. I don't have any contact information of you. I can get it and send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That would be wonderful. Okay, now there's a question. I think Salsabila wants to ask a question. So please, Salsabila.
Hello, thank you so much. So I'm really curious about something. If I may ask, I want to know from your own preferences, Mr. Mujtaba, what qualities do you look for in a supplier? Thank you.
Could you repeat it again? What?
So from your own preferences, I would like to know what qualities do you look for in a supplier? Okay, yeah.
I mean, I've been working with some of the firms and companies in Iran. I mean, my preference, actually, my personal experience saying that, I mean, the loyalty is one of the components that is very important when you work with different suppliers. I mean, in the literature, there are different actually criteria for selecting the suppliers, but I would say that loyalty is one of the importance of those criteria when you are selecting the suppliers and your partnerships, your business partnerships. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from our students? Okay, Professor, so it seems that you have quite a colorful background in terms of education. So you were, okay, you were starting to become teaching assistants in planning, and then you were teaching also in calculus and numerical methods for engineering and so on.
Yeah.
And I think this must have helped you a lot in developing the field that you are in right now. How much do you recommend our students to study this as a background for operations management and for studying supply chain procurement?
I would say that, I mean, it's very important. I mean, you have to have some sort of, I mean, I would say, I mean, I wouldn't call it ability. I would say some sort of exercise that the students should have before, I mean, going to this part of the researchers, because, I mean, you cannot get rid of the digits when you do operation management, when you do modeling. So again, it is all about defining what's going on in the real world, right? So you are gonna find and make some sort of actually a light on the real world problems. So for doing that, you have to find a proper language for that. So the language of finding the discipline of the nature is actually I would say is some sort of mathematics. So it is useful. I mean, in some sense, it is kind of requirement for students. I would recommend the students, I mean, especially for bachelor students, to spend time and be fully equipped by their courses. I mean, in the bachelor level. Then in the next step, in the graduate level, they will actually see how they need, I mean, those knowledge. So it is important and it is vital in some sense, I would say.
Okay, and I also noticed that the Department of Management in Sahrut University of Technology is also put together with industrial engineering. So would that be giving it a distinct character compared, for instance, with Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta and also management programs, most management programs in Indonesia, which would be put into the frame of social sciences?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, I would say that there are pros and cons in both sides. I mean, yeah, of course, we have to be equipped by modeling when we think about the management science. But on the other side, I mean, the management science is dealing with humans, so it could be a kind of social science. I mean, I would prefer not be limited with titles. I mean, of being, I mean, as a social science or engineering sciences. And my opinion is that, I mean, in the current world, I mean, the frontier of this, the frontier of the science is very narrow. So it could be an intersection of, I mean, different type of sciences. That, I mean, all those different types are actually very important. But yes, as you told, I mean, there are some sort of rules and these limitations could be limitation, or they could be some potential that we have actually merged and then combined actually engineers. In this sense, actually, I would say that it's kind of potential for us having, I mean, accounting students, having economics, having actually managers in our school, and on the other side having some industrial engineers in our school. So the combination of all these students, actually, we have good experience of doing that.
Okay, so very interesting. I think we and any other questions, please, from students, because it seems that we are entering the final phase of our discussion. So please, if there are any other questions, I would suggest that you would be able to state it right now, while the moderator, sorry, the MC has asked participants to turn on their cameras for documentations.
So yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mojtaba and Mr. Fonang. Finally, we come to the end of this event. So to close this event, let us recite Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. For all of my friends, can you please turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful face? We will take a picture together. And while waiting, Mr. Mojtaba, can we have a copy of your presentation today so we can recall your insight in the future?
Yeah, sure. I will send it to Professor Raiden.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mojtaba. Okay, all of my friends, are you ready? I will count. 1, 2, 3. Smile. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Smile. All right. Well, everyone, thank you very much for attending this meeting and for your enthusiasm. See you in the next guest lecture. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Mojtaba. It's been very nice talking to you, and hopefully we would be discussing later on in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hosting and inviting for this meeting. And it was a pleasure for me, I mean, spending this time with all you guys. Hope you all the best in the future.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Have a good day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.